Good evening. Let us take a breath together and let the room grow quiet. We are not going to strive, we are going to listen. For some of you, this will be a relief, a sigh, because something in you has always suspected you were not cut off from God. For others, it will be a correction, a friendly one, because you have been diagnosing your ache as a failure when, really, it has been a forgetting. And for still others, this evening may be the beginning of an inner practice that will go with you into the kitchen, the office, the car, and the 3 a.m. hour when the world is still and your thoughts are loud. Here is the point on which we shall build. You have not lost God. You have misplaced attention. What you have called disconnected is not a fact in spirit. It is attention captured by appearances, by the news cycle that flashes and fades, by the pulse and complaint of the body, by the rise and fall of the bank book, by the demands of relationships, by the tyranny of clocks and outcomes. Absence is a conclusion your mind draws when it fixes on those signals and forgets its source. But presence has not moved an inch. The sun has not stopped shining because a curtain was drawn. Now the purpose of our hour is not to give you new beliefs to carry like a heavier bundle on your back. The purpose is to show you a small, repeatable turning, so small you can do it while you are washing dishes, while you are driving through traffic, while you are answering an email, while you wake in the night. A turning so undramatic that no one on your left or right need know it is taking place, and yet so real that peace begins to seep back through the cracks in the day. We will say more as we go, but let me set the seriousness gently in front of us. Freedom is hard to win. It's much harder to retain. Why? Because attention is the gate, and the world knows how to knock. Headlines will knock. Aches will knock. Bills and praise and blame will knock. Even the clock on that back wall will knock as if it were God's own voice. And so we are not here to scold you for being human. We are here to learn how to return, again and again, without drama. How to stop bowing to the altar of appearances and, with a quiet inward act, remember the presence that never left. I speak this not as a theory, but as the simple fruit of experience. Time and again when I have felt pressed, when I have watched the mind run to fix and to fear, a small inward remembrance has altered the atmosphere more than any outer effort could. The room did not change, but my seeing did, and the presence that had seemed far broke through as near. So tonight we begin with that reframe. No distance to cross, only a wandering gaze to gather. If you will lend me your attention for a little while, you will carry away not a doctrine, but a practice, a way to return in ordinary seconds, until ordinary seconds begin to carry you. And if, before we finish, the clock eludes us, well, when the Spirit comes upon me, I forget the clock. But we will keep our feet on the ground and our hearts open, and we will start with this simple truth. You have not lost God. You are simply ready to look where God always is. Now let us look honestly at the ache itself, because until you see it for what it is, you will keep calling it by the wrong name and prescribing the wrong remedy. For some, the ache shows up as guilt and unworthiness. You catalog what you have done or left undone. You rehearse your shortcomings. You imagine a ledger in the sky and your balance running in the red. For others, the ache is numbness. You are overworked, over-notified, efficient and exhausted, moving from task to task like a swimmer keeping afloat by constant motion. And when it grows quiet, you feel only a gray emptiness. For still others, the ache is a sense of being spiritually behind. You remember a peak moment from a retreat or a season when prayer felt alive. And because today does not feel like that, you conclude you have fallen away from God. I say to you gently, none of these diagnoses tell the truth. The ache is not evidence of separation. It is evidence of hunger. It is the desire for God wearing modern clothing, wearing your schedule, your inbox, your achievement chart, your family story. Hunger pangs are not a sign that food has disappeared from the earth. Hunger pangs are a sign that it is time to eat. So it is with the soul. The ache is not punishment. It is invitation. It is the homing beacon within you saying, turn here. Remember here. The well is within. Watch how we habitually misread it. The thrill of a new purchase, how it sparkles in the window and in the imagination. The praise from a friend or a superior, how it warms. The little victory in the romance or the bank account, how it lifts. And then, always then, it fades. Not because these are evil, not because you must renounce shoes and salaries and sweet words, but because no external spark can be the sun. They can cheer you for a moment. They cannot feed the root. How many times must you and I repeat that cycle before we realize the pattern is built in? The outside can decorate the room. It cannot light it from within. Part of our difficulty is a new kind of fatigue unknown to our grandparents. Attention fatigue. Constant input, constant urgency. You have a device in your pocket that rings the neighborhood, the marketplace, and the battlefield into the palm of your hand. Every headline is breaking. Every ping is important. Every hour is crowded with other people's voices, pictures, and emergencies. And so the soul, swimming in noise, begins to mistake noise for reality, and the commentary for the event. Under that swell, presence seems absent not because it has gone anywhere, but because attention has been recruited into a militia of appearances and marched away from its source. Now, if you can, notice this kindly. When the show goes quiet, when the meeting ends, the screen goes dark, the last light in the kitchen clicks off, there is still something there that won't be dismissed. It is not your to-do list. It is not your shame. It is not your nostalgia for a mountaintop. It is the quiet pressure of life itself asking to be recognized as life within you. That is the ache. That is the hunger. Answer it, and the guilt loses its voice. Ignore it, and even praise becomes tasteless. Now, if that is so, then the question becomes, what is the actual nature of union, and where is it located? Now, let us answer it plainly. Union is not something you build. It is something you notice. The Master said, I am the vine, you are the branches. That is not poetry. That is structure. That is a description of how life functions. The branch does not manufacture connection. The branch lives because a root already is. A flow already is. A life already is. For some of you, this will lift a burden, because you have been trying to climb a ladder to God. For others, it will confront a habit, because you have been testifying to your distance as if it were humility. For still others, it will be a doorway, because you have felt the flow sometimes and called it an exception, when in truth, it is the rule. Now, if you can just visualize for a moment a great vine, rooted deep, drawing up water and sunlight transmuted into life, sending it as sap through every channel. The branch does not vote on that flow, does not argue it into being, does not deserve it by effort. It recognizes and yields. When the branch yields, fruit appears. When the branch resists, the appearance is withering. Not because the root failed, but because the branch believed itself alone. So with us. I and the Father are one is not church language. It is the inner fact of your being. Presence is the living source within, the root system of spirit in you. Wisdom, guidance, vitality, love, intelligence, substance, order, already functioning beneath thought, already supplying before you ask, already beating your heart while you sleep. Why, then, does absence seem so real? Because, like a branch staring only at the weather on its leaves, we become hypnotized by appearances. The wind of headlines, the frost of a diagnosis, the heat of another's opinion, the insects of our own mental commentary. And we conclude from those surface reports that the sap has failed. But the sap does not fail. The flow does not stop in God. What stops is our remembrance. What tightens is our attention around the leaf, around the symptom, around the clock. And we testify, I am cut off. Spiritually, you cannot be severed, but you can live as if you were, and you will know the as if by the fruit of fear, strain, and confusion. Therefore, the practice changes character. If union is the fact, practice is not reaching to God. Practice is ceasing to argue for distance. Practice is relaxing the story that says, when I improve, then God will come, and consenting to what already is, the inner eye through which the sap flows. Just silently within yourself, no performance, no bargaining. Let the attention turn from the weather back to the vine, from the commentary back to the flow. You are not trying to start God. You are stopping the testimony to separation. When that testimony falls quiet, even for a breath, you will feel what has always been true. The life of the vine moving in the branch. The presence present. The fact prior to every appearance. Now, let us be very plain about this. Absence feels real because attention consents to appearances and then canonizes them as reality. For some of you, the body brings its report, a twinge here, a diagnosis there, and the mind takes dictation, signs it, seals it, and says, so it is. For others, the bank sends its report, numbers in black or red, a column marching like soldiers on a page, and fear announces, this is your measure. For still others, a relationship sends its report, an unanswered text, a strained breakfast, a look that misses, and the heart concludes, I am alone. Add to this the headlines that parade through the day like a siren-bright carnival, and who would not say, God must be far? Yet none of these are God. None of these are source. They are the weather at the leaf, and when attention forgets the vine, the weather seems like law. Here is the quiet tyranny. Not the event itself, but the commentary that fastens on it and builds a doctrine around it. The ache in the knee is one thing. The mind that says, this will be forever, this proves I am cut off, is the thing that binds. The slow week in the business is one thing. The inner voice that preaches lack, rehearses failure, and prophesies doom is the preacher of separation. The silence from a friend is one thing. The movie your mind produces, without budget but with great special effects, of rejection, isolation, and unworthiness, is the hypnotist. And so we live under the tyranny of our own accepted conclusions, not under a decree from God. Let me say it with the emphasis your freedom deserves. No circumstance can separate you. No condition can remove God. No person can exile you from presence, unless your attention accepts the exile. The only gate is attention. The only passport is consent. This is not denial of human experience. We do not call night day, or pain pleasure, or red ink black. It is a refusal to grant appearances spiritual authority. Appearances are the surface of experience. They are not the source of being. Being is God. Source is the inner I, the vine life, the root system of spirit already functioning. When you and I forget this and worship the surface, we become as a house divided against itself, and of course it trembles. Our age has refined distraction into a liturgy. The phone in your pocket calls you to worship every few minutes, and you bow, thumb to glass, as if to a bell. Social feeds are a newspaper that never ends, a press that prints while you sleep, so that by breakfast you can be 10 crises behind. Productivity has been dressed up as a new form of penance. If you can just do a little more, answer a little faster, optimize a little harder, you may be absolved of the feeling of not enough. Do you see what has happened? The altar has been moved from the inner sanctuary to the outer screen, and the incense that rises is anxiety. And still, even then, God has not moved. Only attention has wandered. Therefore, the first sobriety is to recognize commentary as commentary and surface as surface. To say within yourself, quietly, this report is not God. This mood is not God. This noise is not God. I am not governed by reports. I am governed by the life of the vine. And then, there must be a turning. Not more thinking about God, piling words upon words, as if a taller stack would reach heaven. No, we must learn the difference between thinking about God and resting in God, between talking at the door and entering. In a moment, we shall make that experiment together. For now, let your heart be willing to withdraw consent from appearances and to remember its source. Now, as promised, let us make the turn. Not to more talk about God, but to the small act by which we stop talking at the door and enter. For a moment, just this moment, quietly within yourself, do not strain, do not reach outward. Let the shoulders drop as far as they will. Let the breath be as it is. Close the eyes if you wish. Leave them open if you prefer. Now, silently, within, think the word I. Not your name, not your role, not your history. Just I. The bare sense of being before a single thought has dressed it. Stay with that a moment. Notice that you are not looking at an object. You are resting as awareness itself. You are not in a role trying to reach God. You are the very point of awareness in which God is already nearer than your next thought. That I, when you speak it silently and recognize it, is the place where the branch recognizes the vine, where the surface consents to the root, where spirit is consciously acknowledged as the life of you. Now, add one gentle recognition, as softly as a hand on a doorknob. I am in the presence of God. If you prefer the older language that has fed saints and ordinary people through centuries, say within yourself, I and the Father are one. Do not try to feel holy. Do not push for a sensation. You are not manufacturing light. You are drawing back the curtain that covered a sun already shining. Say it once, and then let the words dissolve into the awareness that remains. For some, there will be a warmth, a quiet loosening in the chest. For others, a widening stillness, as if a room you did not know was in you just opened its doors. For still others, nothing perceptible at all, and that is all right. We are not measuring by fireworks, we are consenting to fact. The mind may wander, the dog may bark, a memory may knock, an argument may resume its sermon. Fine. Return, return, return. No shame, no drama. Each return thins the old habit of outward fixation. Each return strengthens the new habit of inner recognition. Now again, very simply, I. Not the resume, not the wound, not the headline. I. And with it, quietly, I am in the presence of God. Then rest one breath in that consent. If thoughts parade, do not chase them. If feelings surge, do not wrestle them. Hold to the vine by remembrance, and let the sap mind its own wise business. Wisdom, guidance, love, substance, order, vitality flowing, because that is what it is. This, dear friends, is more sure than any outward effort. Not by much speaking, not by bargaining, not by the performance of a better you, by the simple recognition of the inner I through which presence announces itself. Therefore, the question is not whether you can do this once, you already have, but how you will live so you do not lose it when the next knock comes, when the next appearance demands worship. And that is where our real work begins. Freedom is hard to win. It's much harder to retain. Now hear that without fear and without shame. The pullback to noise after a taste of quiet is not proof that you have failed. It is proof that habit resists release. Momentum tries to reclaim its territory. The mind has been trained to consult appearances for years, decades, and when you take the steering wheel away, it reaches. It protests. It bids high. It will come twice as hard sometimes, not because God has withdrawn, but because your old consent is being questioned, and the old ruler does not step down without making a speech. Let it speak. You do not owe it allegiance. For some, the relapse takes a familiar form. You wait for a crisis to pray. When the storm rises, you hurry to the inner room. When the weather is mild, you postpone. For others, the relapse is more subtle. You take spiritual truth and try to use it as a tool to fix an outcome. Declare presence in order to get the contract, to mend the romance, to remove a symptom, as if God were a technique at your disposal. For still others, the relapse is to measure God by feelings. If peace is warm and present, God is near. If the day is gray and ordinary, God must be far. And under all of these, there is a single temptation: to turn presence into a success metric, to keep score, to boast inwardly, it worked, or to despair, it didn't, as if the vine were your employee. Listen to the old stories, not as history, but as mirrors. Lot's wife looked back. What is that but attention returning to the old evidence, the smoke of yesterday's city, instead of consenting to the leading forward? Esau sold his birthright for a bowl of stew. What is that but trading inner dominion for immediate relief, bowing to the body's clamor and forfeiting the quiet authority that was already his? These are not ancient sins. They are current habits. Looking back, measuring today by yesterday's signs. Selling birthright. Abandoning inner government for a quick comfort. You need not be afraid of these. You must recognize them and refuse to make treaties with them. Therefore, a firm but tender directive. Having discovered the inward way, protect it. As in marriage, give up all others and cling to this one. Be faithful before the world demands it. Return in advance. Before the headline, remember. Before the meeting, remember. Before the pain speaks, remember. When you wake, before your hand meets the phone, whisper within, I am in the presence of God. When you pass a doorway, let it be a bell. When the kettle warms, let it be a bell. Keep your lamp trimmed, not by strenuous effort, but by these little preemptive recognitions that refuse to let the old habit set the terms of the day. And set your guardrails. Do not measure the inner life by outcomes. Do not measure it by sensation. Measure it by fidelity. Did you return? Then you have been faithful. Did you forget and then return? Then you have been faithful. When noise rushes back twice as strong, do not argue with it. Do not gather reasons or verses to beat it down. Just silently within yourself think, I, and rest one breath. Refuse the drama. Keep the bond. Remember also, and this will save you from many confusions, the way we walk together is not an organization. There are no memberships. No one can join it. The only bond, the only authority, is a spiritual bond of recognition. I cannot hold your remembrance for you any more than I can breathe for you. I can join you, I can stand with you, and we can cover one another in prayer. But you yourself, without human obligation, must spiritually hold fast. In this there is great dignity and great hope. No doorkeeper can bar you. No schedule can keep you out. Your freedom is maintained by your consent, moment by moment, by this simple, faithful turning that keeps you at the vine when the wind calls you back to the leaves. Now, since we have touched this, let me state it more fully and take the misunderstanding out of it. For some, what I am about to say will be a relief. For others, a disappointment. For still others, a puzzlement that ripens into freedom. There is no organization to join. There are no memberships, and no one can join it. There is no club, no badge, no spiritual elite, and no ladder of offices. Why? Because presence is not a place you enter. It is a reality you recognize. You cannot join what you already are in. You cannot sign a paper to be grafted onto a vine whose life is already moving in you. This does not deny the value of meeting together, praying together, learning together. It refuses to confuse fellowship with authority. The only bond here is a spiritual bond of recognition. When something in you says yes to the inner I, and something in me says yes to the same, and the two yeses meet and know themselves one. That is our covenant. Not ruled by rules, not policed by penalties, but held by remembrance. And with this goes a second clarification that will rescue you from much useless effort. The true sacrament is inward. Inner communion, not bread on the tongue, but life shared with life. Inner baptism, not water on the skin, but the washing of fear and separation from the heart. Inner prayer, not many words spoken upward, but the still consent to I and the Father are one. Paul said it in his way. Circumcision or uncircumcision, it all availeth nothing. What counts is the new creation. Translate that simply. Not the outer rite, but the inner reality. Performances may be beautiful, but without realization, they are only pictures of a feast and no food. Therefore, self-responsibility is sacred here. No teacher can do your remembering for you. I cannot keep your lamp trimmed any more than I can breathe for you. You must measure everything I say, everything anyone says against demonstrable peace, against healing in mind and body, against increased love and wisdom and integrity in the day's decisions. If this teaching does not yield fruit, set it down. If it does, hold it, not because I have said it, but because presence in you bears witness by its own light. People are not helped by slogans. They are helped by God coming to consciousness as their very own awareness. What then is the role of a guide? Not authority, but reminder. Not controller, but one who points you back, again and again, to the I within, to the vine life that is the only teacher. At best, I am a finger pointing, a bell in the hallway, a voice that says, just silently within yourself, think I, and rest there. If ever my words stand between you and your inner consent, let my words fall. If ever my presence makes you look to me instead of through me to God, send me away in your heart and return home. Now hold this one more moment, because it prepares the next step. If there is no middleman, if the only bond is recognition, then neither I nor anyone else can force good upon you. Blessings cannot be inflicted. They come as grace to the door you open by remembrance. And so, the question becomes very practical. In a world loud with appearances, how do we become receptive in the middle of ordinary life? Blessings cannot be inflicted. If they could, proximity would be enough. Sit near truth and be changed without consent. Have a friend who prays and be healed without turning. Listen to a talk and be fed while your mind keeps scrolling. But spirit will not violate the dignity built into you. Spiritual benefit flows through conscious participation. You cannot be dragged into grace while your attention is bowing to another altar. The door is in you, and the hand on the knob is consent. For some, this is the missing piece. You have thought attendance would do it, that being in a holy room or near a praying person would, of itself, alter you. For others, the temptation has been to make the teacher a lever. If only he or she would say the right words, then my life would shift. For still others, the longing is that God would override you, sweep away fear while you keep rehearsing it, deliver guidance while you keep telling your own story louder. Hear it kindly. None of that is how the vine works in the branch. The master did not impose. He asked, "Do you believe? What would you have me do for you? According to your faith, be it unto you." Not theology, but receptivity. The question gathered attention out of the crowd of appearances. The answer formed union. In that moment, the one before him stopped talking at the door and entered. Translate this to our hour. Receptivity today is simply the willingness to stop scrolling, externally and internally. To pause the feed and to pause the commentary. To let a single breath of remembrance interrupt the loop so that presence, already here, may be consciously known. Not long, not dramatic, a breath, but honest. Here is a triad of thresholds where this consent changes the day. Before speaking, halt 1 second. Just silently within yourself, I am in the presence of God. Let wisdom, love, order speak instead of your momentum. You will find fewer words are needed, and the words that remain are cleaner, steadier, kinder. Before spending, one quiet inward turn. 1. I am God-governed. Let substance and sufficiency, not fear or glitter, guide the hand. You will notice desires sorting themselves. what is truly needed, what is merely noise, and guidance appearing where pressure had been. Before sleeping, close the outer scroll. Lay the commentary at the door. 1. I and the Father are one. Let the day dissolve into presence, and the night be governed by the vine. Healing, restoration, wisdom, vitalities doing their silent work while you rest. Do not say, I tried it and felt nothing. Receptivity is fidelity, not fireworks. 1,000 such breaths train attention to remain at the root when the weather shouts on the leaf. Distraction closes the door. Remembrance opens it. And every opened door admits not only peace, but action shaped by peace. Wiser words, saner choices, kinder refusals, truer yeses. This is not passivity. It is government. It is consent to be God-governed in the very moments where you once let urgency rule. And so we come to demonstration. How do we know this is real except by the fruit it bears? Now we come to the standard by which we honor or dismiss everything that has been said. If this is only words, it is nothing. If it produces peace where there was turmoil, guidance where there was confusion, healing where fear had been ruling, renewed love where resentment had built a case, then it is truth verified. People are not helped by a philosophy of words. They are helped when the life of the vine shows up as changed experience. For some, this verification will first appear as a quiet inside your chest that was not there yesterday. For others, as a clarity in decisions that once left you double-minded. For still others, as the easing of a symptom when the mind stops feeding it with dread. Do not argue with fruit. Let it speak. What changes when presence is foreground? Compulsion loosens. Reaction slows. You find that a tone you used to match, you now let pass without answering. An email that once ignited you now meets a pause and a kinder reply. A sudden bill that would have sent you into arithmetic and fear meets a breath and a wiser sequence of steps. Problems are not denied. They are approached from stillness instead of panic, from the vine's poise instead of the leaf's weather. There is a difference between being driven by appearances and being guided by presence, and you will know it by the absence of inner hurry, even while you act. Consider the ordinary miracles that begin to appear. A conflict softens before it hardens, because one sentence, spoken from presence, removes the spark that would have lit the fire. A choice clarifies without torment, because you return to I and the Father are one, and from that stillness, one option carries life, and the others lose their shine. A resentment that had rehearsed itself for years lets go, because you stopped feeding it the old story and let love govern your center. A body that had been braced by dread settles. Breath comes easier, not because you forced relaxation, but because fear was starved and the nervous system obeyed a new governor. Do not look only for fireworks. Demonstration is often the quiet disappearance of torment. The thought you don't think anymore, the compulsion that doesn't command, the gnawing that forgot to gnaw. Freedom from mental tyranny is a healing as real as any headline cure. Many of you will notice that gossip loses its flavor, that doomscrolling bores you sooner, that self-accusation cannot finish its sermon. These are not small. They are the sound of chains loosening. If you need a way to honor this without obsession, keep a simple witness. Not a scorecard, a witness. Once a day, note where peace governed a moment it used to lose. Note where you paused and returned instead of racing. Note where wisdom simplified what anxiety had complicated. Measure by fruit, patience, steadiness, kindness, clarity, not by mood swings or visions. If in a week you see more poise, more love, more right action, you have your proof. If you do not despair. Return. Fidelity precedes fireworks. Fruit grows on a branch that abides. Therefore I say again, hold only what bears fruit. If this teaching yields peace and wisdom and healing, keep it. If not, set it down and go where God becomes real to you. We honor truth by demonstration. Now let us make it even more practical. How do you return in the very moment you notice you've left? Now, here is the way that returns you in the very seconds where life is being lived. For some, it will be a rescue rope thrown into the rapids. For others, a fine adjustment of a dial already set. For still others, the first simple handle on what had felt like a cloud of words. 3 words, 3 movements, in ordinary seconds. Stop, soften, remember. Not a technique to control life, but a reopening to what is already present. First, stop. The moment you become aware, I am distracted. Call it what it is without shame. Attention captured. That is all. You need not blame yourself. You need not fix the world. You need only end the consent to the present hypnotism. 1 second will do. Let the eyes lift from the screen, or the inner screen. Let the sentence in your head pause before it completes itself. Name it kindly. Attention has been at the leaf. I return to the vine. Second, soften. Release the bodily clench. Jaw, shoulders, belly, hands. Take 1 quiet breath. Do not make a performance of it. Let thought slow without forcing it to vanish. If there is heat in the face, feel it. If there is tightness in the chest, notice it. You are not pushing anything away. You are ceasing to grip it. Soften the stare on the problem. Let the focus widen so that space reappears around the thing that shouted. A single unhurried breath is enough to break the spell. Third, remember. Just silently within yourself. Think the word I. Not the story, not the role. I. And then, as softly as placing a cup upon a saucer, I am in the presence of God. Or, if that ancient phrase fits your heart, I and the Father are one. Rest there a few seconds. No bargaining, no project. Let the sap be sap. Then return to the very task at hand, but now carrying presence into it, rather than seeking it out of it. Apply it precisely where distraction is strongest. The email that stings. Stop. Attention captured. Soften. 1 breath, jaw loose, hands easy. Remember, I am in the presence of God. Then answer as one God-governed. Fewer words, cleaner tone. Traffic when the lane closes. Stop. Foot eases, glance widens. Soften. Breath through the belly. Remember, I. In presence. The wheel is steadier. The horn is quieter. Arrival is not your savior. Parenting when the milk spills and the voice rises. Stop. Soften. Kneel. Meet the eyes. Remember. Let love govern the correction. Loneliness at night when the phone tempts. Stop. Set it down. Soften. Feel the bed receive you. Remember. I. Not alone. Never outside. Financial fear when the bill arrives. Stop. Postpone arithmetic one breath. Soften. Let the stomach unclench. Remember, I am God-governed. Substance, order, sufficiency are of the vine. Then, take the next sane step. Seconds. That is all. Seconds often. The practice is small so that it can be constant, and therefore the life becomes not a hunt for God, but a continual abiding, an inward fidelity. Now we speak of what this becomes when it grows up in you. Not effort, but abiding. Not performing for God, but living from God. There is a kind of spirituality that makes a face, tightens the brow, gathers will, and tries to concentrate its way into heaven, as if presence were impressed by your furrowed forehead. Lay it down. You cannot bribe the vine with intensity. The life that flows is not earned by strain. It is received by consent. My yoke is easy was not poetry. It is a description of how union functions when you stop doing tricks for God and quietly recognize, I and the Father are one. Discipline remains, but see it rightly. It is not the grim push of a worker punching a spiritual clock. It is the preference of love for reality over appearances. For some, discipline has been a ladder. Climb higher, be holier, impress the inner critic. For others, a scoreboard. So many minutes prayed, so many passages remembered, therefore I must be safe. For still others, a stimulant, the adrenaline of spiritual bustle that disguises inner emptiness. All of that is performing. Abiding is different. It is the fidelity of a branch that prefers sap to spectacle, root to weather, source to report. It turns out that love keeps better hours than fear ever did. You may say, if I stop striving, won't I become careless? Hear the answer in your own body when you remember. I am in the presence of God. Notice what happens. Reactivity quiets. Clarity gathers. The hand that would have hurried becomes precise. Abiding does not make you passive. It makes you governed. Guidance replaces compulsion. In work, you act sooner where action is true and wait longer where waiting is wisdom. In the home, correction becomes firmer and kinder at once because it is no longer laced with your own anxiety. In money matters, you spend less from fear and more from order. You see sufficiency where panic once blurred your vision. Presence does not excuse sloth. It removes the inner noise that wastes your strength. Therefore make a vow, not to me, not to an institution that does not exist here, but within your own heart, to the God who is your very life. Say it simply, and hold it lightly but surely. I will not negotiate with appearances. I will consult the source first. I will not let headlines, symptoms, or balances bid for my worship. I will remember the vine before I count the weather. I will not work to get God. I will work from God. Let this be your fidelity. When you break it, and some days you will, do not dramatize. Return and renew it. Love is patient. Presence does not keep a grudge. And now, let us make this practical, without burden. Abiding without strain is a series of small, honest yieldings. Just silently, within yourself, think I. Rest one breath. Let the sap be sap. Then take the next ordinary step from that poise. Do this before the meeting and after it, before the call and after it, at the sink, at the door, in the car. You will find that maturity is not a glow around your head, but a steadiness in your feet. The work continues where no one sees. Privacy, kitchen light, sidewalk, desk. There the show ends and the life begins. There the vine lives your day. Well now, we have come to the quiet end of our hour, and I see by the clock that, once again when the Spirit comes upon me, I forget everything else, announcements, schedules, and the message flows. Oh, where did the time go? For some, this has felt like a homecoming you didn't know how to name. For others, it has been a gentle correction of a long habit. For still others, it has been only the first hint of a new way, a small door just found. All three are holy. We will honor them with a few minutes of quiet, just silently within yourself. Think I. Not a sentence, not an argument, only I. Let the shoulders drop as far as they will. Let the breath be as it is. If you like, add only this, as softly as a feather. I am in the presence of God. Then be still. Do not chase a feeling. Do not try to understand. Let the words dissolve and rest as awareness. The vine is the fact. This is our consent. One breath. Another. No striving. Now hear this as reassurance that will travel with you. You will not be outside presence, only outside remembrance. And remembrance is always available now. Not after you improve, not when the house is quiet. Now, in the hallway, at the sink, in traffic, at the desk. One inward glance, one faithful eye, and you are consciously home. If in 10 minutes you forget, then at 11 you return. No shame, no scolding. Return, and the sap minds its wise business. Peace, order, guidance, love, sufficiency doing what they do. As for continuation, there is no membership, and no one can join it. The only bond is a spiritual bond of recognition. Your consent to live from the inner I. Make a simple plan that fits your life. Each day, give 5 honest minutes, morning or evening, to sit still, say I, and rest. Once or twice a week, take a longer period for deeper meditation. Through the day, take the little seconds, before speaking, before sending, before spending. And measure by fruit, not by mood, not by visions, not by someone else's report, by the peace that governs a moment which turmoil used to rule, by clearer choices, by kinder words, by healing where fear once held the body tense. Therefore, we go back now, not from God, but with God. Take presence into the ordinary, because the ordinary is where union is proven. Let the door, the kettle, the phone become bells that call you to stop, soften, remember. If you do this, the proof will not be a story you tell. It will be the peace that follows you down the street, into the meeting, around the table, and lays its quiet hand on those who come near. Good night, dear friends. Return, and let the day be lived from the vine.